Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It breaks my heart to disturb and disrupt the conversations going on, but we've got a lot of exciting things planned for you in the next hour, and we should get to it. Welcome to the 2023 Better Buildings Summit. We are delighted you are here. My name is Maria Vargas, and I'm the director of the Better Buildings Initiative at DOE, and we are thrilled to have you at our summit this year. Let me just see, quick show of hands, for how many folks is this their first summit? Wow, okay, that's a lot of people. Well, welcome. We like to remind folks that the summit that we hold every year is the place across the Better Buildings Initiative. So whether you work with us in Better Plants, in Better Buildings, in the Better Climate Challenge, in some of the alliance work we do, some of the working groups, this is the place where all those partners come together, meet each other, discuss, share solutions, share barriers. You really learn from each other. And as that, we really try and make this summit interactive. Our goal is to leave time for you to make sure that you have the opportunity to talk and learn from each other. You will find that in your sessions, and you will also find we do that in the plenaries. So how many of you, just quick show of hands, how many of you have downloaded the app? Awesome, that's great. Okay, because we're going to use the app in this session and in tomorrow's plenary as well. But without further ado, we have an exciting lineup of speakers today. And then because this partner is about you, our partners, we ask a number of our partners to come up on stage and talk about what they're doing with all of you and the things they're seeing in their sectors that we can look forward to coming down the path in the future. But I would like to turn now to introducing our first speaker. It is my honor to introduce Deputy Secretary of the Department of Energy, David Turk. David Turk has a long history of working on clean energy and clean energy issues. In fact, before he joined DOE, he was the Deputy Executive Director of the International Energy Agency. And with that, Deputy Turk.
Well, let me first start with a big thank you to Maria, our fearless leader on this shared journey, now over a decade long. So if we could give Maria just a deserved big round of applause. And let me start very purposefully and explicitly with just a huge thank you to all of you, including the new folks on this shared journey in the room physically, and I know a number of other folks are online as well. And I think it's incredibly important, even as we have a lot more work to do, and I'll get into that in just a minute, to take a step back and recognize the progress that we've had on this shared journey. So over a decade, we've been working on the Better Buildings Initiative, the Better Plants Challenge, and now the Better Climate Challenge as well. And think about all that we've accomplished in that amount of time. Think about all the efficiency improvements that we've made. 34 million cars taken off the road equivalent for all those efficiency improvements. Think about that 15 billion, and that's billion with a B, that we all have saved as part of this shared journey. That is an incredible amount of money. And think of the 900 plus and growing every day, growing every week, growing every month, and really appreciate that partnership piece in particular. I want to give a special shout out and a special thanks to the 130 plus partners for the newest part of this family of Better Challenges, the Better Communities, the Better Climate Challenge. And want to give that explicit and specific thanks because this is a big commitment. Over 50% reductions in 10-year period of time. That is a big commitment, and appreciate those 130 organizations that have made that commitment to date, and very much look forward to others joining that shared effort as well. And I want to thank not only the organizations and the companies involved, but I want to very purposefully thank you, the people. We are not a country, we're not companies yet, we're not organizations run by ChatGPT or other AI. It's people who drive organizations, it's people who lead organizations. And I know we've got a lot of leaders, we've got an awful lot of leaders in this room and joining us virtually. So a thanks very personally for the passion, the commitment, the long hours, the hours of working these issues internally in your own organization, including when there have been questions asked, resistance by some, should we do this? Should this be the priority that we focus on? Just want to thank you all for your personal commitment, for your personal passion, and certainly from all of us at the Department of Energy and the broader administration, your partnership as well. All right, so let's take a step back and really do a counting of where we're at in this particular moment that we're in. There's no doubt there are challenges in front of all of us. Certainly the challenge of not doing enough yet on emission reductions. In fact, climate emissions, CO2 emissions actually went up last year. That's not where we need to be. We need to be having our emissions go down around the world and go down dramatically. We also have some challenges on supply chain and inflation and costs of things, and we're certainly very cognizant of that and trying to help through those particular challenges we face at the moment. But while we have challenges, and I'm not diminishing the challenges, they're there, they're real, they're important, I want to make the argument and put it on the table in front of you all as you're continuing to eat the delicious food that's been prepared for all of us, that I think the opportunity space here is so much larger, so much more enduring, and so much more potent than the challenges at this particular moment in time. I want to focus a little bit on the opportunity space that you all have with us as your federal government at this particular moment in time. And I would not have been able to, as Ali Zaidi, my good friend, who's our phenomenal climate champion and climate leader for the White House and all that we do in the interagency know, this is not something I could have said 2 years ago or 3 years ago in terms of the depth, the breadth, the vigor of our federal tools in our tool belt. I know you've heard some of these numbers before, but I think it's useful to just take a step back and appreciate what we're able to bring to the table from the federal government side of things. And again, a thanks for all of you. I'm sure there's a lot of advocates around this table and virtually that were instrumental in getting the Inflation Reduction Act passed and getting the bipartisan infrastructure legislation passed under President Biden's leadership. But let me just put a few numbers on the table. One, we've got tax incentives like never before. A couple numbers there. Instead of having to have tax incentives that may go out every year or two, and we've got tax extenders and there's drama on the Hill, do they get extended, do they not get extended? We've now got 10 years of tax incentive certainty. That is a huge, huge deal for all of you, all of your companies, all of your organizations, others throughout our country making decisions for the long haul. There's varying estimates of how much these tax incentives will cost and how much they'll generate. $360 billion is one number that's been put on the table more officially, but there's other numbers. There's no ceiling on these tax incentives in terms of how much bang for buck we get from them. If there's more who are interested in using the tax incentive, then we get bigger bang. We get even more from those tax incentives going forward. And the sheer breadth of these tax incentives can make one's head spin, including our 200+ Department of Energy folks working with Treasury and IRS to try to get the most from these tax incentives, to try to help design these tax incentives. But it's not just the tax incentives. Congress has given us now huge amounts of money just for our department, the Department of Energy. It's $100 billion over the next several years for all sorts of cost share programs trying to build out our clean energy infrastructure, our clean energy programs going forward. It's rebates like we've never had it before for consumers and for others. It's money going to state and local governments to try to help in the ecosystem going forward. Those are big numbers. That is a huge opportunity. That is a huge wind at all of our backs. Let me give you just a few specific examples of what this means in this particular context. So I know many of you here own commercial buildings. There are potent tax deduction, tax incentives for building out efficiency in those buildings, whether it's on the HVAC side, whether it's on insulation, whether it's lighting, up to $5 per square foot. That is a significant amount of extra boost, extra incentive to try to have wind at the back for all of you, to do what you want to do, to make it cost effective, to do it at a bigger scale and pace than we've ever been able to do it before. We've got a 30% investment tax credit for building out solar and wind and storage like we've never had it before, including for that 10-year time horizon. For city and local governments, we've got the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program like we've never had it before, for direct money coming to help put a wind at the back. So I want to lay out the proposition for all of you. While there are challenges, I think the opportunity, not only in this particular moment, but that enduring opportunity, provides all of us a huge, huge wind at our back. All right, so then the next question, of course, I think, is what do we all need to do? What do we all need to do in this special moment? What do we all need to do to take full advantage of this historic, unprecedented opportunity that we've been given? So a few thoughts for your consideration. One, from the federal government side of things, with all these new tools, with all these expanded tools in our tool belt, the thing that we work on day in and day out, incredibly talented folks like Maria and Jeff Marushian, who needs to get confirmed and become head of our energy efficiency and renewables chance. If anyone from Congress is listening, let's get Jeff confirmed very soon. We need to make sure we're designing everything and being as good a partner as we possibly can be. We need to make sure when we have programs that are user-friendly, we've got good information out there, and we allow you all to do what you want to do, but to do it quicker, to do it cheaper along those lines. One thing I'm particularly excited about, and this is going to take an awful lot of work from us in the government, and it's not just DOE, it's working with Ali Zaidi and Tricia Miller, who's here as well from Ali's team, with Treasury, with HUD, and we'll get to HUD in a minute, a very special partner, and I have the honor of introducing the Deputy Secretary at the end of my remarks. We need to try to put together a one-stop shop, so all of these tools that you all have in the building space are accessible, are user-friendly, and you can figure out which ones are most useful for what you're trying to do in your own particular organizations and businesses. This is something Maria, working with our interagency partners, is working hard on. We are trying to roll that out in a matter of months so that you all have that ability to have that clarity of information going on forward on that side. So DOE, being a better partner, all of us in the U.S. government being a better partner, and that's just one example of how we can do that. But we need your feedback, we need your guidance, and we need your criticism as well so that we can make sure that we're doing our part here in this equation. Secondly, for all of you, we need your continued leadership, and I'm going to say we need your enhanced leadership as well. We need more of you to join the Better Climate Challenge. 130 is great, 140 would be better, 300 would be even better than that, and we hope many of you consider making those pledges. And then the last thing that we all need to do together is, pledges are great, incredibly important. Sign up to the Better Climate Challenge. I'll say that at least one or two more times before I conclude. But what we need to all do together, and this is a very much a shared partnership and part of this shared journey, is we need to execute. None of this matters unless it happens in the real world at the pace and scale that we need to have it happen in the real world. You are the real world actors, the real world leaders. We need you to be wildly successful in your execution, and we need to support you in that execution going forward. Of course, the benefits here, I don't need to tell this audience, it's not just reducing our emissions, it's saving an awful lot of money. Your boardrooms and your shareholders, your owners, yourselves, all of you at your company will look at you in incredibly positive terms when you save money. We can improve our resilience. We can improve the health of our buildings and who lives and works in our buildings going forward. So it's certainly a win-win opportunity, but it's all about execution. And if we don't execute, if we can't execute in the real world, we won't be successful. Leading companies won't be successful. And if leading companies aren't successful in execution, then other companies won't follow, and they won't follow at the pace and scale that we need them to follow in. So thanks to all of the work from many of you, from all of you in this room, we now have this historic, unprecedented opportunity going forward. And the last comment I'll make is just take a step back and think about what's on the table if we succeed in this shared journey, if we succeed in this shared opportunity, this historic, unprecedented opportunity. You get to be the leaders in your companies that you are in organizations, and your companies get to be leaders in the industry with all of those benefits that come from companies and individuals who step up and lead. But it's not just that. That's pretty good in and of itself. We get to have better buildings, and we all get to get the benefits of those better buildings and better plants, right? All the people who live and work and spend our lives in buildings, although on a day like today, people should be outside enjoying the fresh air, and hopefully you all have a chance to do some networking outside as well. But if that wasn't good enough, doing good by our companies, doing good by our careers, doing good by the people who live in our buildings, we also legitimately have a chance, and it all requires execution and partnership to save our planet at the same time. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, take a step back and just think about that. Like, it's all execution, it's all partnership, we have to get it done, but that is a super cool opportunity in front of ourselves. When we look back at our careers, we can say that we were part of something that brought all of those real-world benefits and saved our planet at the same time. So thank you all for this shared journey. We look forward to the shared partnership, and we look forward to being wildly successful, supporting you all being wildly successful, and all being wildly successful together. And speaking of partnership and speaking together, I get a chance to introduce a colleague, a friend, a phenomenal champion in this space for her entire career. We've got Deputy Secretary Todman here from HUD, who has been living and breathing and working on these issues, a special connection to the Better Buildings Challenge for many, many years, and a phenomenal partner for everything that we do, certainly at the Department of Energy. So Adrianne, over to you.
Let's hear it for my colleague and friend, Dave Turk. Who is a lot taller than I am. Hello, everyone. It is wonderful to be up here. Again, thank you, Deputy Secretary, for your phenomenal leadership and for your partnership doing this work. I'd like to immediately thank Maria. 10 years of doing this extraordinary work. Let's hear it for Ms. Vargas. I didn't realize. No, let me tell you why you deserve that. While I'm a deputy secretary, I'm a practitioner at heart. I like getting the things done, not just thinking about it, but then doing it. And so years and years ago, when I had an opportunity to raise my hand to be part of the Better Buildings Challenge, when I led the local housing agency, I did it with enthusiasm because I understood the impact it would have inside of our housing space, not just reduction of cost, but just doing the right thing. But I also understood what it meant for our consumers in terms of their children and their children's children, and the important role we play in making sure that we are building a better tomorrow for the folks who are counting on us to do that. So Maria, if you've been doing this for 10 years, you embody that action. And for those of us who were there at the beginning, thank you. Thank you so much. I want to thank our partner at the White House, Ali, you'll hear from him a little bit. Thank you for the phenomenal leadership you have. And at HUD, Alexis, who is leading this body of work on behalf of the Secretary and I, thank you as well. Enough of the thank yous. Right now, we have more than 90 multifamily organizations who have made the same choice that I did some years ago in leading the multifamily sector toward decarbonization by example. And the importance of this work just cannot be understated, as I just mentioned. The building sector is responsible for 32% of greenhouse gas emissions, and I don't have to tell you all that is a key driver of air pollution. The emissions exacerbate climate impacts, as my colleague just mentioned. They contribute to severe storms, flooding, wildfires, droughts. And let me just say another piece of HUD's work, another piece of HUD's mission is after disasters, working with our friends at FEMA, it is HUD that is providing disaster recovery funds to all these communities, all these fellow Americans across the country, whether it be a hurricane, a wildfire, a tornado, all of these other communities that are impacted by disasters. HUD is seeing firsthand the impact of that and spending billions of dollars to try to make communities whole again. So we're seeing this from end to end, and so this work absolutely matters. The Better Buildings multifamily sector has been HUD's really flagship energy efficiency and decarbonization technical assistance program since we partnered with DOE and launched it in 2013. Since then, we have seen multifamily partners achieve incredible progress, and I know some of you are here today, towards their goal of reducing energy use by at least 20% over 10 years, despite challenges to the housing industry over the past decade or so. And as of last year, we have several partners who have achieved their goals. Some achieved their 20% energy reduction goals, and others achieved their water goals. I want to thank everybody in the room who is a partner in the multifamily sector who have done a phenomenal job. Let's hear it for those partners. And then last year, we knew we had to do more, and so we re-upped with DOE and signed up for the Better Climate Challenge with the goal to reduce their portfolio-wide greenhouse gas emissions by at least 50% within 10 years. And we're excited that we have 15 partners serving more than 100,000 households who've signed up for this next level of commitment to climate challenge. But I'm going to come back to that number at the end of my comments. Look, if we're going to meet this administration's bold and ambitious decarbonizing buildings strategy, we need everybody to play a key role. And HUD is pleased to partner with DOE on the important work here and on many other fronts. You know, one of the things that HUD is also doing, and some of you may be aware of this, is we have for the first time a climate action plan. And in fact, very excited that Alexis is serving a special role in making sure that that action plan is operationalized inside of the department and across our many partners across the country. We have advanced energy efficiency by supporting through our regulatory actions, investments in energy and water efficiency. And we've also provided grants that incentivize or require green and resilient buildings. You know, as my colleague said, this is a historic moment, folks. And first, like him, I want to thank everybody who played a hand in making sure that the federal government had the resources it needs to provide funds to many of you and others across the country to really achieve the goals that the president has set. But this is a historic moment. And one of the things that I would hate for all of us to do is to waste it. This is not the time to be, as my mother would say, lackadaisical about our work. This is the time to really lean in and understand the important role that we play in this moment of history to deploy the funds that we have received. You know, part of the challenge of meeting the challenge is making sure that with this community of practice, the work that you all are doing, that we are networking and encouraging everyone around us who's touching our space. In my particular industry. It's the multifamily sector, but we are representative of many sectors here. So I personally, for all of you who are watching this, streaming, for anybody who is in the room right now, who is inside of the housing and the residential space, I'm personally challenging you to take the baton. When the Deputy Secretary mentioned that we need to get higher numbers, we need to do more, we need to understand that, yes, this isn't just about doing the right thing. While that's important, I have a 27-year-old who was here just this past weekend putting on her first wedding dress, trying it out. She's going to get married next year to some guy. No, he's a good guy. He's a very good guy. Isaac, you're wonderful, just in case this ever goes where it shouldn't. But she's my baby, right? She is my future. I'm hopeful to have grandkids one day, and then so on and so forth. So when I think about this work, and I think about the right thing, it is not the right thing that we can appreciate right now, right? I live in the DMV. If it's a nice day in the middle of January, you're thinking, yes. But maybe we need to sit back and think, not so much. But tied to that, as somebody who's a practitioner, I understand what it means to reduce costs in your property management. I understand what it means to reduce utility costs for your tenants and residents. So the economic benefit is real as well. So all of you who have not yet signed up, 15 is a great number, but I know many of you out there. So I may actually call some of you and say, this is the time. This is the time to lean in and be part of this very, very rich history. You know, HUD plays a partnership role with our friends here at DOE, EPA, Treasury, the White House. But we can't do it alone. As the Deputy Secretary said, we need all of you, all hands on deck. Thank you for the leadership that you have exhibited so far, and thank you for all of you who will be joining us in our journey. Stay well.
All right. It's now my great opportunity to introduce Jeff Marudian. Jeff is President Biden's nominee to oversee the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy at the Department of Energy. He's currently serving as a special advisor to the Secretary. He is terrific to work with, and he's going to spend a little bit of time highlighting many of you, so you'll want to be here for those slides. And then we've got a really great partner panel. The reason I ask about the app beforehand is because the way you all are going to be interacting with the panel is going to be through that app. Because Jeff has one or two questions for the panel, but we want to hear your questions. We've done these panels, if you haven't been at the summit, we've done these panels for a number of years, and the reason we keep doing them is they're one of our best sellers. I mean, people really enjoy hearing from the partners and being able to ask them questions about how did you handle this, or what's the opportunity here, or why did you make this decision? So please know that you'll need your app for that. But without further ado, let me ask Jeff Marudian to come up and get us back on track and steer the rest of the session forward. So thank you all for bearing with us, and we can always be better, and that's the goal of the summit. So Jeff, to you.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Well, before, when Maria asked how many of you are first-timers, I raised my hand, and I am incredibly excited to be here with all of you. It's my first time at the Better Building Summit, and I look forward to many more with all of you. I think it's obvious by the show of leadership from the Biden-Harris administration that this work is really a priority for us. And as you heard from our Deputy Secretary, Dave Turk, under Secretary Granholm's leadership, we are keenly focused on helping to deliver on President Biden's ambitious climate goals of a net zero economy by 2050. And that means that all of us together need to collaborate. And that's what I think is so incredible about the Better Buildings program, is that really at the core, it's about collaboration. And in the process, as we work together towards our clean energy transition, we need to make sure that we're bringing all Americans along. And so that's something that we are very focused on in the Biden-Harris administration. But I want to be clear that the leaders of this effort are not limited to those of us who are on stage. We very much think of all of you in this room, whether you've been coming for many years or if this is your first time, as true leaders in this movement. You are the champions of this work. Several of you have made and met portfolio-wide commitments in your respective areas, and that has truly moved the needle. And so as you all work together to drive this work forward, I do want to say thank you for all of your effort, for your current partnership, and for your continued partnership with the Department of Energy and with the entire federal government. And since we're talking about the importance of leadership, I think she's gotten quite a bit of accolades so far, but I would also be remiss if I didn't pile on to the praise for Maria Vargas. And I do so because it is really the combination of her passion and precision that I think has really had no, there are a lot of programs that we operate at DOE, but judging by the success, the amount of people who are here who have traveled from all over the country, it's in no small part to Maria's hard work and her leadership. So for the last time maybe today, let's give her a big round of applause. Sorry, Maria. But you absolutely deserve that accolade. And I also want to just extend a thank you to all of the staff here, the hotel staff, and all the folks who helped put this event together in collaboration with the department. Now more than ever, we are really at an all-hands-on-deck moment when it comes to mitigating the impacts of climate change. The Better Buildings Initiative creates an incredible platform for partnering with and connecting to the marketplace. All of you are critical to implementing solutions and pathways, not only to reducing your own greenhouse gas emissions, but sharing your successes with others. The strength of this program is really in its partners. You are willing to make commitments, share the strategies and solutions you've developed, and demonstrate what's possible so that we can replicate that success. By working together, we are able to achieve more rapid adoption of energy saving and decarbonization technologies and practices across the country. So each year at this summit, we like to take a moment to acknowledge our partners who are working hard to make meaningful changes and progress toward their goals. It is these efforts that move this program forward. And now I get to do the fun part. So, we'll be releasing our annual progress report with key findings, updates, and metrics later this year, and I'm excited to share that it will also capture the work of those partners that are a part of the Better Climate Challenge. You'll notice that we've recapped a portion of recent program achievements in the spring 2023 progress update handouts that are on your chair. The progress update highlights just a few of the many Better Buildings partners and allies' achievements to date. So, we'd like to welcome the new partners who joined us this last year. We're so incredibly glad to have you in the program and look forward to highlighting your successes as you work to achieve your goals. Your partnership strengthens this program. Since the last summit, we have had 45 partners join the Better Climate Challenge, and more than 10 additional partners set goals with DOE in energy reduction, water, and waste. Let's take a moment to give a round of applause for our new partners. And that means there are now more than 165 partners and allies that are committed to the Better Climate Challenge. These organizations pledge to cut in half their enterprise-wide Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions within 10 years without the use of offsets. They participated in working groups, received assistance on technical topics like emissions reductions, and have partnered to share their best practices with one another. So let's give all of these folks a round of applause. Let's give all of our allies a round of applause as well. A key part of the work that we're doing with partners in the Better Climate Challenge is happening through working groups. We're excited to launch 3 new working groups today. Over the summer, in July and August, we will be convening these new working groups that are open to partners in the Better Climate Challenge. They are GHG emission reduction audits and assessments, on-site renewable energy and storage, and low-emission alternatives to industrial thermal loads. We're very excited about these new working groups, and also very excited when we get to announce the completion of successful efforts. Over the past 2 years, 65 partners have worked with DOE as a part of the low carbon pilot. The key learnings and materials from these 2 years of work have been collected in the toolkit that was recently released on the Better Buildings Solutions Center. We really appreciate these organizations stepping up and helping DOE understand their challenges, barriers, and opportunities. It was their feedback that laid much of the groundwork for the Better Climate Challenge. Let's please give them all a round of applause. And now I want to celebrate the winners of the 2023 Better Project and Better Practice Award for both Better Buildings and Better Plants. These awards recognize partners' innovative, industry-leading work. For many of our partners, this was a new opportunity this year. Thanks for sharing your success stories with us. The Better Project Award recognizes partners for outstanding accomplishments in implementing energy, water, and waste projects as individual facilities. Let's give these folks a round of applause. The Better Practice Award is presented to partners for innovative and industry-leading accomplishments in implementing and promoting practices, principles, and procedures of energy management. If your organization received one of these awards, please stand to be recognized with a round of applause from me and all of your peers. And lastly, I want to recognize the Green Lease Leaders, a cohort of landlords and tenants who are modernizing leases to spur collaborative action on energy efficiency, decarbonization, and sustainability. This year, the program recognized 71 organizations, expanding by more than 30%, and included 34 organizations receiving recognition for the first time. Altogether, Green Lease Leaders manage over 6.4 billion square feet of commercial and government space. I'd like to ask the Green Lease Leaders in the audience to stand, and please join me in recognizing them. Additionally, we would like to recognize our partners who are on track to meet their Better Buildings commitments. Please join me in applauding the partners in the following sectors: commercial, education, industrial and manufacturing, multifamily, and state and local governments. There are, as you can see, a lot of partner successes to highlight, and I have no doubt in the years to come there will be many, many more. So in the fall, be on the lookout as we recognize partners that have achieved their portfolio-wide goals, whether that's in energy reduction, Scope 1 and 2 emissions, water usage, or waste. Okay, so now is the really fun part. As you've heard, we've got a lot of great partners that are here, and I'm so delighted to be able to bring some of them on stage. So now I'm pleased to introduce our executive partner panel and ask them to join me. This is really a great panel. And while they're coming up, we know that you're going to have questions. So as Maria said, please take the opportunity, if you haven't already, download the app. You can ask questions directly there by clicking the agenda icon on your home screen, selecting this plenary session, and scrolling down to the Q&A link. If you need any help, just raise your hand, and we'll have somebody help you download the app. So now it's my pleasure to welcome Liliana Esposito, the Chief Corporate Affairs and Sustainability Officer of the Wendy's Company. Let's give her a round of applause. Kendall Combs, Vice President of Strategic Business Development for the St. Gobain North America. Eric Schmidt, the Director of Sustainability for the City of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Caitlin Essig, the Director of Sustainability for Foundation Communities. And Donnell Baird, CEO of Block Power.
No more drilling. I'm just kidding.
Don't do it.
I'm just kidding.
Not,
We shouldn't do more drilling, but I'm just kidding.
don't do it to me today.
Sorry.
All right. So as I said, this is an exciting panel because of the incredible accomplishments of the folks that are here on this stage. But I want to make clear that we really want this to be interactive. So please take a moment to submit some questions. I only got a couple questions, and then I'm really counting on all of you to help ask them some tough questions here. So what we're going to do is have folks give about 3 to 5 minutes of an opening statement, and then we're going to just jump right in. So first I'm going to start with Liliana.
All right. Thanks for having us here, and nice to see everybody. Wonderful lunch today. Really want to start with some thanks to all of the chefs and servers and hospitality staff here at the Capitol Hilton. They do a fantastic job, so thanks to them. I'm here on behalf of the Wendy's Company and the Wendy's system, and hopefully you all are familiar with Wendy's. Hopefully you've been in for a hamburger and a Frosty recently, and if you haven't been, hopefully seeing me will encourage you to say, I really want a spicy chicken sandwich. So we have about 7,000 restaurants throughout the Wendy's portfolio across the world. Vast majority of those restaurants are here in the United States. Oops, sorry, I'm just getting a little bit of, maybe it might be your mic. Sorry, Jeff. Vast majority of those restaurants are now we're back. The vast majority of those restaurants are here in the United States, and the vast majority of them are franchised. And so that's kind of a unique dynamic about Wendy's, but is not a unique dynamic within the business community as a whole. And so whether your organization is franchised or it has another kind of multi-distributed model, you might have licensees, you might have agents or brokers. It's an interesting model when you think about work like energy efficiency, because in many cases what you're doing is influencing rather than kind of ordering or mandating action. But we have a tremendous amount of interest in a couple of things. One, having as many Wendy's around the world as we can, and having them operate in a way that is really pleasant for our customers and makes our customers want to come back, but also really successful and profitable for our franchisees so that they want to build more of them. And so we joined the Better Buildings Challenge in 2015, and I think one of the kind of unique aspects of Wendy's in the Better Buildings Challenge, Jeff, when you had your slide up there about the partners that were on track, many of those, you kind of flipped through it quickly, but many of the names on the commercial list were actually Wendy's franchisees. And so in addition to the Wendy's Company, we encouraged our franchisees to join the Better Buildings Challenge as well. And today we've got about 40 organizations representing about 3,000 restaurants in total, including all of the company's restaurants, which is about 400, that are in the Better Buildings Challenge. We've also been part of the Water Challenge and the Low Carbon Pilot, but really the Better Buildings Challenge has been kind of the flagship of it. And what we've found is, and why we approached it this way, was that this challenge was coming at a really important inflection point for our brand. Two things were happening. One was that we were refranchising. So we were going from a place where the company owned about 25% of the restaurants to a place where we would ultimately own only about 5%. And so our ability to really have growing, thriving franchisees was becoming even more important to us. The other thing that was happening, and hopefully you've witnessed this in your communities, is that we were embarking on a re-imaging campaign. Many of our restaurants had been around for decades. Some of them hadn't been remodeled in some time. They might have had carpet instead of tile floors, and we wanted to really upgrade the image of the company. But in doing so, we also needed to do that in a way that was going to be, economically advantageous. And so what we found is that, and all of you, I'm sure, have experienced this as well, when you do things like make your buildings smaller, make them built out of more energy efficient and sustainable materials, put in equipment and HVAC units and kitchen equipment that is going to be more energy efficient, transition to LED lighting. All of these things create a fantastic, guest and employee experience, but they also have the ability to dramatically lower energy use and as a result, lower emissions as well. And so we've really been on this journey starting from, really from looking at our customers and our franchisees, but what we found, and I think it really mirrors what you said, we can also help the planet. And so we've now just recently set a science-based target for greenhouse gas emissions on behalf of the Wendy's system. That will be through 2030, and it will include our franchisees. So our scope 3 will, of course, include purchased goods and services, but importantly, franchisees will be a part of that. And really, I would say our experience with the Better Buildings Challenge is what gave us the confidence to say we know we can do this, because we know that it makes good sense for the environment, but it importantly makes good sense for business.
Great. Thanks so much, Liliana. Let's go to Kendall.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here representing Saint-Gobain. I'd like to start off by thanking Maria Vargas. That's apparently what we're supposed to do. And second, thanking my team that's here, who really is the muscle behind the work that we do. Those of you that don't know Saint-Gobain, we're the world's largest building materials manufacturer. And here in North America, we have about 150 sites. We're proud to be leaders in light and sustainable construction. Some of the product families that we make that you may be familiar with are asphalt shingles, gypsum, drywall, fiberglass insulation, and other building materials. We've got about 18,000 employees in North America, and last year we did about $10 billion in revenue when we celebrated 118 years of continuous operations in North America on the back of our parent company, which has been around for 360 years. So we've been at this for a while. What I want to talk about today is that building a sustainability program is not an easy challenge, particularly for a company that does things like melt sand and cook rock, right? So our needs are pretty great, and yet we have made these commitments. We have the net zero 2050 goal as well. Why it's important for us is because we view that sustainability is not just something that we do, it's critical to our strategy. We view climate change as an existential threat, and we know that if we're not taking action today in our own operations, then down the future we're going to continue to run into more and more problems. Any of you that are in the industrial sector have run into soaring inflation, you've had supply chain issues, you've had labor shortages. Just on the supply chain side alone, the more we can build circularity into our business, the less dependent we are on virgin raw material and the supply chains that support that. So we continue to push forward with this. And from my point of view, the best way to implement and keep a sustainability program going despite these many different challenges is to connect it to your purpose. Right? And our purpose at Saint-Gobain is to make the world a better home. And that's because we believe that the more we are able to bring sustainability into our organization, the greater impact we can have on the built environment. It's somewhere between 30 and 40% of the global CO2 emissions. And so us are in a position of great responsibility, but also of great opportunity to make an impact on that, both in the way we manufacture our goods, but also their performance in use. So the ways that we build out our sustainability strategy and connect it to our purpose is, number one, as I said, drawing that link between strategy and sustainability. It really is. It's not an initiative that we do, it is the initiative, okay? Number two is that we have built sustainability and performance targets into our product innovation process. The third is we work with our vendors directly because we want them involved in our innovation process, and we have a vendor innovation partner program, the VIP program, which aims to help them understand what our needs are, particularly on scope 3 and reducing the embodied carbon in our products, and working together on innovation so that we can continue towards our goals. The fourth one, what am I blanking on right now? Well, I'll say it's partnering with the DOE, which we've done in many ways. I mean, we're very active partners, and it's really about information exchange, learning from what others are doing, learning from the DOE experience, and then taking some of our best practices and bringing it back. And then the final is direct decarbonization efforts, and this comes from energy reduction. We have a strong focus on electrification. Last year, we were able to do an industry-first electrification of a gypsum plant in Canada in collaboration with the Canadian government through direct investment. We're optimistic that the Inflation Reduction Act is going to give us similar opportunities here in the United States because we're on this journey and we're not going to stop. Right now, we're number 34 on the EPA's list of renewable energy procurers in the United States, and that's before a 200 megawatt project that comes on next year kicks into place. So we're going to continue this way. We are building out our circularity program, as I mentioned, knowing that the more we can use recycled content in our processes, the less dependent we are on virgin raw materials. So for any of you that are trying to build out your own sustainability program and face all of the challenges of the industry and the challenge of the naysayers, I just really encourage you to link it back to your purpose and then ingrain that into everything that you do in your business to continue on the journey. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Kendall. Now let's hear from Eric.
I don't know if this was strategic. Those are some hard follows. But the Better Building Summit is actually a well of inspiration that I've been coming to for several years since the city joined in 2015. So it's hearing those stories and those deep investments by corporations and everyday practitioners, such as everybody here, that opens up the realm of possibility for relatively small to mid-sized city government, and bringing innovative practices to the way that we've been doing things for a long time. So, just backing up a step, y'all, if you've ever listened to anything about Chattanooga, in 1969, before the Clean Air Act, Air Pollution Control Board study showed that Chattanooga had the worst air quality in the nation. Walter Cronkite read it on the news. People literally had to use their headlights during the day, take 2 shirts to work to get one that doesn't have soot from the steel factories on it. So, and today we are still working with EPA for lead remediation throughout our communities for foundry sands that were basically just driven around and, hey, you need a load of dirt in your yard, leveling things off. So we have very real remnants, and obviously from an environmental justice standpoint, we have a legacy that we're still working to correct. So we're a city of about 200,000 people. It's a rapidly growing region, but now, due to decades of collaboration from community partners, investing in natural resources to create the Tennessee Riverwalk that extends for over 14 miles and connects from the Chickamauga Dam to Lookout Mountain and provides access to opportunities and spur trails that penetrate into underserved communities. That work is all still ongoing, and I fortunately was able to come on a little over 8 years ago after working in the private sector as an environmental consultant with Arcadis. But I brought an experience of transportation and stormwater and NEPA, water quality, just a range of issues to bring in and kind of pivoted into the energy space when we joined, advocating for Mayor Burke at the time to join the Better Buildings Challenge. We've got about 2 million square feet of portfolio, so very small relative to panels up here. But and so we've been able to make strategic investments and progress in that regard and cut our raw energy use 25%, saving us over $2 million a year in annual electricity costs, which is great for a small-sized city. And using the Better Buildings program, yes, thanks again to Maria and everybody else that's built this program. I have to make this plug because one of the reasons it was a strategic move to join the challenge was, hey, a 10-year challenge. Well, we'll do a little simple math, 4-year mayoral terms. That's going to transcend mayoral administrations, not even knowing how long I would be there, but it has been the glue that has bound the platform for the cities to stay focused, have third-party verification and validation through the Department of Energy, and it has been the platform to allow us to make strategic capital investments from 60-plus LED lighting retrofits to a 4-megawatt solar array at the wastewater treatment facility, to working with our local electric distributor to build a microgrid for our public safety complex. So we're excited, and having just passed a climate action plan, first one in 14 years, with a 2040 carbon neutral plan for the municipal government, 2050 for the community. And it is really going to open up a whole realm of possibilities to work with our community at a larger scale, to bring in as many partners as we can. Mayor Tim Kelly, our current mayor, said we want to have goals that we can't solve on our own, and I think that's the right spirit, to have an open door. So I'm just excited to engage the next step. We've joined the Better Climate Challenge, and there's just a whole world of possibility with all the federal funding opportunities, and we're excited to get the work done.
Great. Thank you so much, Eric. Really appreciate that. Caitlin.
Hey, everyone. Or I was going to say, hey, y'all. I'm Caitlin Essig, and I'm the Director of Sustainability at Foundation Communities in Austin, Texas, and I'm representing the multifamily sector today. We have been an affordable housing nonprofit in Austin and Texas for over 30 years now, and we have 29 properties. So we have 19 properties for families and 9 for single adults. We are now home to more than 7,000 people, and we have a housing plus services model. So what that means is, in addition to the housing that we're providing, we also provide free support services on site to our residents and to the community at large. Well, some of these services include free tax prep, signing up for the Affordable Care Act, and accessing health initiatives like on-site food pantries. We've been building green for over 20 years, not just because it's good for the environment, but it's good for us as lifetime owners of our buildings. And it assists our residents in living a green and healthy lifestyle. We are successful because we have had a dedicated sustainability team for over 10 years to make sure our properties stay green over the long term. We all love a beautiful brand new building, but we really spend most of our time on the older properties and that long-term operations. We joined the Better Buildings Challenge in 2017 and the Better Climate Challenge in 2022. We have, of course, goals similar to everyone else to reduce our energy and water consumption by 20%, and that includes our residents' consumption as well. And then, of course, with the Climate Challenge, we also have carbon emission reduction goal of 50% in 10 years. We reach our goals by piloting a project first, measuring and verifying the impact, and then prioritizing larger retrofits across the portfolio. One of our strengths is we take advantage of being in close proximity to our properties. We walk every property once a year and have a critical staff education program where we educate over 100 staff each year on green topics. We also have a huge resident education program that impacts all new residents that move in with us. We have taken to heart that small changes have big impacts across the portfolio. 85% of residents that live with us say they live a greener lifestyle after living with FC. Of course, we all have challenges, and ours is truly around the need to include our residents in our long-term goals. Gathering data from utilities is extremely arduous and difficult, but it's critical in the multifamily sector because we may have just a small square footage that is an owner-paid account for an entire property that's just a small leasing office, and many, many units that may be on one property. As an affordable housing nonprofit, we are also operating on thinner margins in other sectors. So even though we are mission-driven, the money still has to pencil out. The game is changing, though, in a lot of instances in terms of smaller energy and water efficiency projects. Those tend to pencil out, but decarbonization and resiliency is less clear. So this leads me to the message I want to drive home from my fellow multifamily sector in the room. First, it is so important for the multifamily sector to be involved in the climate planning process in your cities. For cities passing climate action plans or updating them, make sure the multifamily Better Buildings partners in your cities are a part of the planning process. I was the only one representing the multifamily sector when Austin updated its climate equity plan last year, and 50% of Austinites live in multifamily housing. Our sector is just as excited about benchmarking and building performance standards, but owners may get fined if they don't reach certain building standards. My question for you is, how are you going to engage us, the multifamily sector, to make sure our voice is heard? My second point is that we are in a housing shortage, especially affordable housing. So how do we support organizations like mine who have decarbonization goals, but whose total carbon emissions will only ever increase? My third point is, like everyone else, we're talking about the amazing funding opportunities brought to us by the Inflation Reduction Act. And that might be the answer to some of my questions that I have today. There's a total of $25 billion in spending allocated to affordable housing that HUD, DOE, and EPA will administer. It's a huge opportunity for organizations to do needed capital improvements with decarbonization and climate resilience in mind. This is exciting because in Austin, we are all too familiar with how fatal winter storms turn into unforgettable climate disasters. Now, my hope for this funding is that it is streamlined with as little complexity as possible. Interagency coordination is happening, which we kind of already have heard, and that will assist organizations like mine to receive the needed assistance to apply. Again, we were really surprised, I think, in the multifamily sector that this funding is becoming available, and we are really looking forward to learning more in all of these sessions this year and years to come on how we can utilize this funding that will positively impact affordable housing across the country for decades to come. Thank you.
Thanks, Caitlin. Okay. Last but not least, let's hear from Donnell.
Yeah, hi everybody. So I'm Donnell Baird. I run a company called Block Power. I'm here on behalf of startups. I'm delighted to be here among so many friends and colleagues. Block Power got started through a contract with the US Department of Energy way back in 2013. I was in business school wrapping up my second year, and the DOE was like, this kid in business school has this new startup idea. We've awarded him this contract, but we're not sure that he has a real company. So they made me get on a train to come down to the Eisenhower building where some DOE scientists could basically beat the hell out of me for 3 hours and figure out if Block Power was a real idea. And fortunately for us, DOE did decide to move forward with that project, but we wouldn't be here without the DOE. And so for so many of us, I think that's representative of I'm really proud of Maria, I'm really proud of the DOE, but also of all of us as a community. I saw so many friends coming in, Jamal from Rewiring America, Lauren from Vornado, Trisha Miller, and Jessica Granderson from the White House. And I think the reason for that is because this actually is a pretty hard industry. And it's like a calling and a mission, and there's so many of us who cross paths with one another because we've been working on it for so long. I met Jamal, and before he was at Rewiring America, he was at Green and Healthy Homes. Trisha, before she was in the White House, she was at Elevate Energy doing engineering audits in the Midwest. And Jessica Granderson, was doing research science on buildings in California. And so for so many of us, it's so great to see one another and reconnect in this community that Maria has been helping us to cultivate, especially in a moment like now, since it is all of a sudden our moment. Where I kind of sometimes feel like, the neighborhood dog that's chasing the post office truck through the neighborhood, and then one day you catch it, and you're like, oh, what are you going to do with this truck? And you have no plan for what to do with the truck, and that truck is the IRA. And for us in the buildings industry, what an amazing opportunity for those of us who've been focused on this for so long to really kind of seize the moment. And so Maria asked me to share some of the stuff that we're seeing at Block Power. We're venture capital backed, unfortunately. There's no one worse than venture capitalists in America, I don't think. But we are seeing lots and lots of interest. There's worse people, MAGA. We're seeing lots of interest from Silicon Valley and venture capital in climate tech. When I started Block Power back in 2013, we couldn't get VCs to invest. They'd lost so much money in 2008, 2009 in clean energy 1.0, clean tech, that they weren't willing to invest in innovation in the sector. But now, climate tech innovation has rebranded, and there's more money going into climate tech than almost any other sector in venture capital. Even in the venture capital downturn, folks are still investing in innovation in our space. Wall Street, there's a lot of back and forth on ESG, but all the major banks have ESG programs for risk management, not for politics, because it's a great way to think about risk. And there's trillions of dollars of capital that are now available to green and decarbonize buildings across America from the private sector, on top of what the administration is leading with the IRA. Over the last 10 years, there's been incredible innovations in computing, cloud computing, mobile computing. My new smartphone, my new Apple iPhone has a LiDAR sensor in it. We no longer have to use a smoke pen to do audits in the buildings where you have the pen. You guys know smoke pens. I don't want to offend anybody who uses a smoke pen. But you release a plume of smoke, and that's part of your building envelope audit, and you watch which way the smoke blows. Well, it's hard to get Goldman Sachs to underwrite financial products according to the analysis of the smoke pen, right? They can't do it. So now we have LiDAR in all of our smartphones. The cost of machine learning and the ability to build predictive modeling so that we can build a recommendation engine that can tell every American family how much IRA funding they're entitled to and what kind of sustainability or electrification project makes sense for their specific home. They type in their address and they get a recommendation and a financing plan and a decarbonization plan. We can build that. And so this is our time. The wind's on our backs as an industry, as a community, and I know we all have been working at this for a long time, but really want to encourage all of us to kind of seize the moment. A lot of folks have high hopes for what we're all going to be able to accomplish together over the next few months, and I'm really excited about it as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dan. Now let's give a round of applause for all of our panelists. And thank you to all of you who have been submitting questions. We've got quite a few of them. So I am going to ask one question, but then I'm going to jump right into all of yours. So please keep them coming. Some of you touched on this, but if you could just maybe highlight what you see as the biggest challenge that you've experienced and what the lesson learned might have been from that challenge. And let's just go in the same order, starting with Liliana.
Yeah, I think the big lesson is that this is not, if we're looking at, energy management, energy efficiency, decarbonization work, this is not a set it and forget it kind of mechanism. It takes a tremendous amount of continued focus and investment and resources, even when it makes perfect economic sense. And I think sometimes you might, I know we have some of my colleagues here, Amy Casper and Thomas Grant from Wendy's, and they spend a tremendous amount of their time working with our franchisees, working with our company restaurants around what sort of strategies and initiatives they can implement that make perfect business sense. And yet it's an additional thing for somebody to do. It's one of those that it doesn't just have to make sense. It also has to be something that you keep front of mind in order to keep it sustained. And so I think that's been a lesson, that you have to plan for not just the what you think kind of the initiatives are going to be, but also the kind of the care and feeding of that ecosystem to make sure that it continues to be sustainable.
I think for us, it's really about the amount of capital that's needed to decarbonize our operations. It's quite burdensome, and we make an investment today in retrofitting a plant that doesn't need to be done again for 20 years. Right? So it's really long-term investments with large amounts of capital. On the flip side, the good that comes out of that is, like we saw at our gypsum sites in Montreal, with the electrification, we also saw a 30% improvement in efficiency. So decarbonization can lead to better performance of the sites as well. And so we're going to continue doing that. We've got $400 or $500 million to spend in the U.S. this year on capital investments.
So kind of this delineation here of private public sector, I try to bring both sides of the mind to the work, but so I think aside from being good stewards of taxpayer dollars, I think what we sell is more of a service than a product, and that service is quality of life, and either maintaining or improving what that is, and equalizing the way people experience that. In Chattanooga, 40% of our population is economically distressed. In low-income zip codes, energy burden can be 43% higher per square foot during the winter months. And so I think it's the challenge of defining the task, building the capacity, using the dollars that are available, and getting the investment and buy-in from staff. It's great to have top-level leadership. You can't do it. I always try to remind myself to say something, so here it is. It's our staff, everyday energy management, facility management, wastewater management practitioners who have to see the value and how it improves their operations, saves them money. And it's kind of chicken and the egg. How do you get that top-level leadership initially without getting their buy-in? How do you get that buy-in? So I think the trick there is meet them halfway. Where are you trying to improve your process, your management of facilities, and help elevate their concerns, help them get those things funded, proof provide the proof to upper level management and to start that process. So outside of that, taking it outside the bubble of city government, this, again, is a challenge that's beyond what city government can do, and so getting residents and businesses on board, and I really do truly hope that that will continue to happen. And just this week, City Council had its first reading on a C-PACER program for the city of Chattanooga. So out of the gate, that's going to be an exciting thing to hopefully open up opportunity for the private sector to get in on this and start realizing the benefits.
Yeah, in the multifamily sector, we've been building green our first LEED building was built in 2010, and it was very much on the bleeding edge of technology, and one of the first electric buildings in multifamily in Austin. And what we are now dealing with is, at the end of the day, our not super skilled maintenance staff that are having to manage the properties over the long term. So I will look at utility consumption and be like, oh, we have, a runaway train is what I call one of our properties when the utilities are going out of whack. But then I have to go talk to that maintenance staff. And so the project that we actually won the award for this year, Waterloo Terrace, we installed PTAC units, which are the traditional hotel HVAC unit that you will see in your hotel rooms probably right now. And we did that intentionally because we knew that the maintenance staff are familiar with that, have seen those before. And even our residents who come in, who have been experiencing homeless for who knows how long, they more than likely have at least seen a unit that's similar and familiar to them. And so, we're trying to figure out how we balance, meeting our decarbonization goals with the reality that our maintenance staff, property management staff, all that's always going to turn over. So, what systems are we really going to pick to make sure that our buildings are performing over the long term so that we're saving as much money for ourselves and for our residents?
Yeah, I could go on and on about the difficulties of greening buildings. We crazily signed 3 contracts with 3 cities that have committed to green every single building in their city in the next 6.5 years. And so Ithaca, New York, where Cornell is located, Menlo Park, where Stanford is, and San Jose, California, where actually Google has a bunch of staff. And so these cities have passed laws stating that by the year 2030, they're going to be 100% renewable and fossil-free and net zero. And so we are the program manager for that. And so we are wrestling with the same challenges that all of you have in your building portfolios as we think about what's it really going to take to green every single building in several American cities. And if we can pull it off, how do you aggregate and share all of the data and the learnings and the best practices so that other cities and building portfolio owners around the country and hopefully around the world can follow suit? And if we can figure all this out together as a community, then we have a shot at reducing emissions from the building sector at a scale in a reproducible way that would allow us to avoid the worst impacts of the climate crisis.
Great. All right, another question from the audience. What project or aspect of your company or organization's sustainability plan are you most proud of? And why don't we start, Donnell, why don't we start with you and work this way back?
I'm proud of our workforce development program. You spoke a little bit about the fact that there is such a shortage of skilled technicians and laborers and construction firms across America. Initially, we thought it was just a problem in New York, but as we looked at the data, we can see that it's a problem across the entire country. And even when you look at Europe and Japan, in some ways, their workforces really need to be upgraded. And so, millennials like me or Gen Z, we want to be on YouTube. Now it's TikTok. We did not want to go to Uncle Joe and Aunt Pam's plumbing company and learn how to run that plumbing company. And so the mayor of New York had a very brilliant idea. We had a spike in gun violence in New York City. And our mayor, Eric Adams, is a former cop, and he said he's going to keep crime low. But he didn't do it by, doubling the size of the NYPD, what he decided to do was to train and hire 3,000 gang members, ex-offenders, and folks from vulnerable populations who the NYPD recognized as being at risk of participating in crime. And that now serves as a New York City civilian climate corps, where we have thousands of adults who are being trained in how to do electric vehicle installations, and how to do audits, and how to install heat pumps, and how to rewire buildings, so that they can become the workforce that we need in the city of New York to decarbonize all of our buildings, which contributes 67% of our emissions. So we're really proud of that, and are expanding to New Jersey and Colorado and a few other places fairly soon. But really proud of that. My team, because I don't work on it, but my team does.
Great, thanks. Everybody make sure to follow Donnell on TikTok, please. Thanks. Caitlin.
Yeah, I have to say that we haven't really steered away from the resident and staff engagement that we do. I mentioned that when I was talking earlier. We spend a lot of time looking at utility bills and thinking about how we're going to design a building. But at the end of the day, that one-on-one conversation that you have with the property manager and maintenance and seeing their face over and over again, especially me, I've been there 6 years now, and so I'm familiar with the staff, and it just makes a huge difference because I know them, they know me. I even have residents that recognize me now when I go out to the properties, so we can't lose sight of that, even though we really want to focus on what we do have control over, which is like replacing the HVAC and replacing the water heaters. Like, yeah, we can totally do it on the back end, but we can't forget about that, resident staff engagement, and that stuff is not necessarily what, is going to save us money in the long run. It will certainly some, but it doesn't have as big of an impact as, spending my time on a solar install, but it's really important to do both, no matter what.
Great, thanks.
As far as our climate action plan, the major tenets are carbon neutrality, maybe even more ambitious zero waste goal, preserving and improving our natural resources, growing the green economy, building a sustainable city, and doing all of that under the umbrella of increasing equity and reducing racial disparities. The parts that I'm most excited about, it's almost like the other sections are the definition of the problem, and the solution lies in addressing the equity and disparity piece and growing the green economy. And so I'd be remiss to say that the work in Chattanooga has not been bolstered by Volkswagen and production of the ID4 and Novonix coming, and thank you, Department of Energy, grants of nearly $150 million for graphite refinement. Those are huge, big drivers that are actually increasing the region all the way from Dalton, Georgia. Vice President Harris was just down there to Blue Oval City in Memphis, and all of that creating a region. But it's also the housing piece and the equity, and how do you get people to jobs? How do you get them trained? I have kind of a saying that energy efficiency is only an issue for low income because they don't have the income to deal with the challenges that we do. Something breaks, we try to fix it, right? They need a job. And so there's a lot of employment opportunities, hopefully, that we will build to as part of addressing our other challenges.
Great, thanks, Eric. Kendall?
For me, what I'm most proud of is very easy, is the people on our team that are leading our sustainability efforts. It's really impressive to me to see the amount of talent and expertise, and most importantly, passion that it attracts into the organization and that these individuals have. And it's really commendable because you can imagine in a large industrial organization, not everybody understands why. So we do link to the purpose, as I said in my opening, but really we link to the people that are bringing their passion and emanating that throughout the organization. And so I thank them again. Thank you.
Thank you. Juliana?
For me, it's not pride in something that I personally have done or accomplished. It's really pride to be part of an organization and to see that now I feel like our overall, climate and ESG agenda really is integrated into the business strategy, and so much so that last year we started tying a portion of initially executive compensation to achievement of our goals, and frankly ended up with a year that we kind of outperformed, and now every bonus eligible person in the company has 10% of their bonus tied to the company achieving both its climate goals as well as our other ESG goals related to responsible sourcing of our food and diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I think, when people are being compensated on the basis of achievement of work, it really is a signal that this has moved beyond becoming just an initiative into really a recognition that this is part of our overall sustainability as a business enterprise. So it's just, there's a lot of pride in being part of an organization that's doing that.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for submitting questions. We are unfortunately out of time, but I want to give a huge round of applause to our panelists. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you guys all for staying. I really, really appreciate it.